First 365 on a all Friday. Father Mac, I'm McCall, Jody McConnell. Joined by another JAKIB Media YouTube channel superstar, our buddy from Eagles Postgame Live, Derrick Gunn hops aboard. D Gunn, how you been?
Good, man. How you guys doing this morning?
Doing well, Deacon. Let's start out with Shady McCoy because
Yeah.
Shady's going to have his press conference, going to be honored Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. Andy Reid back in the house, which I think is apropos. You were around Shady for a lot of years. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. Which way do you go in the Hall of Fame discussion?
I don't think he'll get in the Hall of Fame. I think he needed maybe another year or two of decent numbers. He had a decent career, no question about it, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I think he will definitely be in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He was the all-time leading rusher. But when it comes to the Hall of Fame, I just think he's on the outside looking in by the slimmest of margins.
You and I are on the exact same page. Close.
Yeah.
But no cigar, just a little bit short. But
right.
I've been wrong about Hall of Fame guys before, and maybe I'll be wrong about Shady.
Yeah.
We shall see. Jalen Hurts going to make the Hall of Fame. Is this the week that it breaks out? The beginning of the Hall of Fame run for Jalen Hurts?
Well, let's put it like this. If you remember a few years ago when Kansas City won their Super Bowl, they began their year at 4-5. They were up and down the first 9 games of the season. Then all of a sudden something clicked for that team, and they ran the table and they won the Super Bowl. I'm hoping we catch the Chiefs sleepwalking this week because right now they're down. But knowing what I know about Spagnuolo and Andy Reid, they're not going to allow that to happen. Kansas City's defense is bad right now. They're 31st in the league against the run. They have a lot of problems on defense. But this is a team that they're facing, and the Eagles, they have a lot of problems, period. I understand, Nick Sirianni's trying to be as positive as he can. Now, they're going to change some things up. But it's going to be interesting to see how this team now handles pressure. This new rookie head coach, this basically rookie quarterback, they've heard all the criticism this week, radio, TV, print outlets. They've heard it, whether directly or indirectly, somebody feeding them the information. They've heard it. And just 3 games into the season, they've hit a crossroad here. And the schedule's not going to get any easier for a while. And so now you got to come out and run the ball against Kansas City. Run the ball. Because if you give that ball back to that other man, Patrick Mahomes, that's an offense that accidentally scores 30 points. They're going to find a way to score 30. Very seldom does a defense hold them to under 20, 25 points. So you're going to have to match point for point. Can you? You can if you minimize mistakes and if you stay true to what you said you were going to do out of training camp, commit to the run. In all my years of playing, watching, and covering football, I've never been associated with a game where only 3 running plays have been called in an entire game. So hopefully Nick has learned his lesson. Thank goodness it's early in the season, not late in the season. And I can't wait to see what game plan he has going up against Kansas City.
Well, D-Gun, we now know RPOs are considered runs in certain circumstances by the head coach. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. I talked to you after the game on the live post game show, and my biggest concern coming out of Dallas was Nick Sirianni saying we knew we would have to keep up offensively with this team. In other words, he thought it was going to be a shootout, and he wanted to run up and down the floor, basket for basket with the Dallas Cowboys. I agree with you. No. You got to go the opposite way. You don't have the personnel to compete in that type of game. If he tries to do that against Kansas City, it's DOA. It's dead on arrival. You got to keep the football away from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Well, you know what's funny, John, is that when you go back and rehash that Cowboys game, the Eagles had a chance to get back in it and make a game of it. Even with the game plan that they were implementing, And all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts started missing receivers wide open.
Yeah.
He threw his first 2 picks of the year. He underthrew that deep ball. So there were opportunities there for them. You know, he served up a pick 6. Those were momentum changing moments in that game. So they had a chance. And I do believe if they had I don't think they would have had as much success running against Dallas as they could have against Kansas City. But they could have had a measure of success running the football to slow down Dallas's momentum. But basically, you played right into Dallas's hands and made that game the lopsided game that it was. So, you know, I understand every coach, you have a playbook, but you know what? You've got to flip the script now. You've got to do something that Kansas City isn't expecting, or else it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly by halftime.
D-Gun, if you go back and look at the 3 games the Eagles have played, week number 1, they played very well against Atlanta, good designed offense, shut down the Atlanta offense pretty much across the board. Week 2 against the 49ers, a team known to have a very good running scheme.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get beat by the 49ers running, but they didn't cold stop them either.
No.
A couple of 90-yard drives
Yep.
with the 49ers running the football. And then this past week, the Cowboys just shredded them.
Yeah.
Anytime they needed 7 yards on first down, pick or choose. We want to handle it to Pilot. We want to hand it to Zeke. Doesn't matter. We'll get well in front of the sticks on second down. What Eagle run defense is going to show up against Kansas City this week? Does it even matter? Because are the Chiefs going to run the ball? Are they going to, Andy Reid, take a page out of Nick Sirianni's book and say, yeah, let Patrick Mahomes throw it 50 some odd times? A little bit more understandable Mahomes than Hurts, but what kind of Eagle defense against the run is going to pop up on Sunday?
Man, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, you go back to that Atlanta game. You know, Atlanta's first 2 drives, they had 29 plays in their first 2 drives. Against the 49ers, once the 49ers started making adjustments, they started chewing up the clock to make sure the Eagles weren't getting the football. And they had a couple of long touchdown drives, 8-9-minute drives to turn the momentum in that game. And, of course, one of Dallas' scoring touchdowns was like, a 9-minute drive. It seems to be that this is the MO of this defense. And outside of Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, I don't know who you can count on in this defense. Darius Slay is okay. Steve Nelson is okay. But if you're not getting pressure on a quarterback, I don't care how good your cornerbacks are. They're going to get burned eventually. You can't let a quarterback stand back there and pat the ball for 3.5 seconds because that man's got Travis Kelce. He's got Tyreek Hill. He's got this kid named Mecole Hardman. He's got a running back named Clyde Hilaire. So there's weapons on top of weapons in this offense that they can go to. So the front 7 has to find a way to get some kind of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And even with that said, as we've seen in recent years, Mahomes like a magician, throwing across his body through no-look passes and stuff like that. The kid's amazing. So he's going to make his plays. Trying to minimize his plays is the key. And you notice I emphasize the word trying because I'm not too sure about this Eagles defense right now. Losing Brandon Graham was huge in terms of leadership and a guy coming off that edge. Against the Cowboys, I didn't see it consistently enough from Josh Sweat, from Derek Barnett. And another thing, if you can keep Barnett's head in the right place and not make dumb plays, that's a big plus. Minimizing penalties. This is the most penalized team in the National Football League. Minimizing penalties. So there's a lot of things that go into the ingredients for this defense to be successful against this Kansas City offense. You know, until this season, Patrick Mahomes had never thrown an interception in the month of September in his young NFL career. So, you know, this Kansas City team offensively right now seems to be out of whack just a little bit, but they're still a very dangerous team. This Eagles defense has got to be on its P's and Q's from start to finish, or I can't emphasize this enough. It could get ugly in a hurry for the home team.
All right. Well, I'm looking, D-Gun, for some optimism. It's very difficult to find it, but I'm going to throw this out.
Okay.
So I want to hear what you think about this.
Okay.
We always talk about styles make bites. The Cowboys like to run the football. They can run the football. They like to go downhill. I think BG, as you mentioned, that's a bigger loss than people realize, especially in the run game.
Right.
Because even though things went between the tackles, what BG's absence allowed Dallas to do was double team Fletcher, double team J-Bond, and then just go downhill against those linebackers. The Chiefs don't want to do that. Number one, they don't have that kind of mentality, that kind of sentiment. Two, Jonathan Gannon's zone can keep everything in front of you. Maybe they limit the big plays that way. Kansas City doesn't try to run the football. I'm looking for something. What do you think of that avenue?
You know what? That's wishful thinking. But you know the Chiefs are going to take their deep shots. That's what their offense does. They're going to take 3 or 4 deep shots in this game. They're going to work you underneath with Travis Kelce. They're gonna touch you up a little bit in the running game, because once you start laying back on the pass game, they're gonna hit you with Clyde Hilaire, and that little kid is electric. Man, can he flat out ball? So you're gonna have to pick and choose your poison. I like your optimism. You know, I'm not saying this is Custer's last stand. I'm not gonna go that far yet, but I'm just saying you've got to flip the script completely and do something that Kansas City's not expecting to make this a competitive game.
All right, this will be a return game for Andy Reid, and we know Andy has a relationship with the fans. He's got a relationship with Jeff Flory and Howie Roseman and Derrick Gunn and a whole bunch of people here in town.
Right.
But none with Nick Sirianni. Their paths really haven't crossed, and if anything, Andy might be motivated to just make sure Jeffrey knows that he may have made a mistake by letting his guy Doug Peterson go and hiring this guy who he's going to coach circles around on Sunday. Does Andy's ex-relationship with this town and many people in it have any impact on the outcome of Sunday's game?
No, I don't think so. For Andy Reid, for Steve Spagnuolo, the Kansas City Chiefs, it's all about coming in here in a hostile environment and winning a game. You know, that's the bottom line, winning a game. Who thought we would be sitting here right now talking about the Chiefs at the bottom of the barrel in the AFC West? You know, I never thought that would happen. It's all about X's and O's, W's and L's for Andy. You know, he's going to enjoy the moment in terms of coming here. But Andy's never been an emotional guy. In all the years I've known him, he's never been an emotional guy. He always tries to leave the emotion element out of it in terms of distractions outside of the game itself. He will enjoy the moment. He'll wave to a few people, you know, but he's all about his business coming in here on Sunday. And how interesting it is, in Andy's last couple of years here in Philadelphia, people couldn't wait for them to fire Andy Reid, get him out of town. All of a sudden he goes to Kansas City, has success, wins himself a Super Bowl finally, and all of these people are back on the Andy Reid bandwagon.
Yeah.
You know, they're big fans of Andy Reid. But you know what? You know, I respect the fan base of Philadelphia, and they understand. It was a move that at the time that had to be made. You had to make that move and move in a different direction. But the fact that so many people now still reach out to Andy Reid and show Andy Reid a lot of love, especially earlier in the week when he was down with dehydration. There were a lot of people out here from the Philadelphia fan base that really extended their well wishes to Andy. And, you know, that says a lot about the fan base here as well.
You know, I agree with you, D. Gunn. I think the shelf life was over at the time here. But I do think about, you know, 140 wins in Philadelphia. If he wins on Sunday, that'll be number 100 with Kansas City. He came to the Chiefs. They were 2-14. A lot of people forget the season before with Romeo Crennel. He immediately turned that team to an 11-win season. You go out to Pittsburgh. Bill Cowher had this little hiccup during his stint with the Pittsburgh. Remember, he never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
And people were calling, we're done with Bill Cowher. He's never going to win the big one.
Right.
The Steelers got over that hump. All of a sudden they win. He rides off into the sunset. Obviously, the Steelers are most known for continuity. You ever think about if the Eagles just hunkered down, got over that hump, kept one of the greatest coaches of all time in place? I think it would have started up again. I think they would have been in a similar position as Kansas City. Am I wrong?
No, I agree. You know, one thing about Andy Reid, players love playing for an Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is going to give you his all-time best. You're right. If Andy Reid had stayed here, they would have gone through some more growing pains. But they would have changed things up eventually. They may have added different coaches around him. They would have added different scouting personnel around him and kept this thing going. Would Andy Reid have won his Super Bowl in here in Philadelphia? I don't know. But he would have had this team competitive. When I came here in 1997, this was a team that was in the final stages of Ray Rhodes. They had a 10-6 year one year, and then all of a sudden they bottomed out the next year, and they made the switch to this guy that nobody had ever heard of named Andy Reid. And, Andy Reid went through his rough year, his first year. They drafted some quarterback named Donovan McNabb I've never heard of before, and so the rest is history. He made this team relevant for over a decade. He gave the city a lot of pride in his football team. They were a national watch 3, 4, 5 times a year, every year in the Andy Reid regime. So, yeah, I think if they stuck it through, weathered the storm, this team would have risen back up to the upper echelon of the National Football League. But I think, when I talked to Andy about it, even Andy, when I went out to interview Andy a couple times in Kansas City, he knew it was time also. He knew it was time for him to change as well. So it was like a mutual agreement that, we need to go our separate ways. As much as they loved each other, it was time for them to separate.
D Gunn, I'm going to give you a bunch of stat lines here. Okay. 6 receptions and 8 targets, 71 yards. 2 receptions with 7 targets for 16 yards, and 3 receptions and 6 targets for 28 yards, 1 touchdown reception the first week of the season. That's Devontae Smith. To say not great would probably be an understatement. There are many reasons for it. What do the Eagles have to do to upgrade those numbers? Eagles, Jalen, Devontae himself, the head coach, a lot of people would contribute to getting these numbers up to what was expected. And I had very high expectations, maybe unfair high expectations. How do you get Devontae Smith going?
Run the ball consistently. If you're picking up 4 or 5 yards of crack, that's going to help set up that play action. You're going to suck in the linebackers. Maybe a safety is going to have to come down in the box. It's going to force the Kansas City secondary to play more one-on-one coverage. And I think that's the best way with the creativity that Devontae Smith has in his route runner, being such an efficient route runner that he is. He's a technician when it comes to running routes. I think that's the best way to free him up in one-on-one coverage. And even if you don't hit him deep, give him more opportunities over the middle as well. Even on the out routes, the 8-10 yard out routes, the quick slant route, quick post routes, hitch post, the hitch pass, anything you can get on the ball. Anyhow, any way, shape, or form you can get this young man the ball. And don't forget about that guy named Quez Watkins. I don't think Quez Watkins gets enough touches as well. He is the fastest player on the team. Utilize that speed, which they haven't been able to do consistently. But if you can suck Kansas City's defense up with your run game, that's going to open up a lot of things for your RPO and your play action game as well.
Okay, D-Gun, where are you with Jalen Hurts then? Because we talk about running the football. We talk about the play action game. Is this a guy who can step back, throw the football consistently to an open Devontae Smith down the field, in the middle of the field? We talked about some of the accuracy issues in Dallas. Is that just a bad day? Is he capable of doing that? Or did the Eagles have to build this offense into a more, for a lack of a better term, college-y type RPO atmosphere? Did they have to do that for Jalen Hurts?
I think he has a good arm. I'm not going to say he has a great arm, but there's ways a quarterback like Jalen can eat defenses up in the intermediate game. What he may be lacking in terms of long ball strength, you can eat them up. Look at how many quarterbacks dink and dunk their way down the field of success. And I think you can do the same thing. You have 2 very good tight ends in Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. You've got good running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield in Miles Sanders. And Miles Sanders cannot, by the way, he cannot be in a game and only have 5 touches. You cannot have 5 touches for one of your most electric players. Get him the ball out in space. Line him up in the slot. Swing pass screen, middle screen, left screen, right screen, whatever you have to do to give him the ball. Jalen Hurts can be just as efficient in a passing game like that, and you can have a lot of success with the speed that he has. Jalen Reagor in the slot, Quez Watkins on this side, Devontae Smith on this side. Somebody's getting open. But make it a timing rhythm offense. You want to take a few deep shots. You know what? Start sucking the defense's back seven in. Start sucking them in and let your guys wiggle free. That's when you get your shots. Jalen has shown that he can throw a decent deep ball. It may not, he may not have the strongest arm in the National Football League, but so what? He can be efficient. But you have to put this young man in situations that are playing to his strengths and not exposing whatever deficiencies he may have.
All right, D-Gun, we put out there a couple potential scenarios for Sunday's action between the 49ers, the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them's going to actually happen. There's a couple of scenarios. The optimistic, Johnny's trying to look optimistic all day today.
Well, wait to hear my score.
I see he's having a tough time with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my score with John coming back next segment. We need to put you on the hot seat for your prediction for this week's game. Are you buying into one of the less percentage scenarios where the Eagles actually really stick it to Andy Reid and have him walking out the door at 1-3 on Sunday? Will it be a competitive game that's close, that may not quite go the Eagles' way? Or are we looking at major questions after a blowout by the Chiefs on Sunday? How do you see it playing out?
I think it's going to be a competitive game for a while, but I think in the final analysis, I have Kansas City 34, Eagles 24. I don't think it's going to be the route the way it was down in Dallas, but I do think eventually Kansas City, with a better team, better offensive personnel, they pull away down the stretch and win this one by double digits.
D-Gun, a pleasure. Looking forward to catching you on Sunday on the post-game live. J-Mac will be with you and your crew of Eagle degenerates, including that Lane Johnson guy.
They are degenerates.
Feel free to ask Lane about the offensive.
He called Devin Caney a degenerate?
Devin Caney? Come on.
Oh, my goodness.
More of a Farzetta thing. I know Farzetta all the time. So I was thinking of him more than anybody else.
Yeah. There you go.
Don't tell Lane Johnson I called him a degenerate, because he could hurt me bad. So
Jody calls me worse than that, but not Devin.
Me and Mark Farzetta, okay, we're questionable. I admit it. I'll go that route.
No, it's more Farzetta than that. That degenerate Mark Farzetta. There you go. I narrow focused it for you.
You cannot hurt my feelings. You can't hurt me, man.
Same, man. I'm with you, D-Gun.
Thank you much for hopping on with us. We'll be watching you on Sunday, buddy.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a great weekend.
Derrick Gunn from the Eagles Post Game Live here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. I haven't taken a shot at Farzetta since he joined the troops, so I felt I needed to take it.
No, that's fine. You just got to leave Devin out of it. Farzetta's fine. Take shots at him.
Yeah, I didn't. You're right. I used buckshot when I should have used shells and fired directly at my buddy Mark Farzetta. All right, the two buds, McMullen and McDonald, will come back. We'll officially get on the record, make a pick for the Eagles versus the Chiefs on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. He said he was going positive, folks. He was looking hard for positivity today.
I was looking, but I didn't find it, Jody.
Okay, so we'll come back and probably not be all that positive, but you got to come back and find out just the same here on Birds 365.